How's it going, everyone? It's Mike, this old hot rod. You guys all know it. My seat's a little low, camera's a little high. Hey everyone, it's Mike with this old hot rod. Appreciate you guys coming back. Saturday morning, I'm in the shop. It's early. I only have a few hours this morning to work on the Tudor Sedan because Allie's got some things she's got to go do, and I'm on kid duty. So I want to get you guys caught up to where I'm at right now. Last night I spent a few hours and I got my patch panels finish welded and all cleaned up. I get all this cleaned up, welded, all this welded and cleaned up. So now what we have left on the passenger side is we have the rear quarter panel, patch panel, and then also we're gonna do a little bit of work further up on the quarter panel. I think you guys have seen this. I think you guys have seen why. So this is just sitting here, as you can tell. So this is kind of the main issue with the quarter panel. So what I'm gonna do, it's bad all the way back to the wheel well. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it straight down and then figure out exactly where this panel comes in and just kind of tie it in somewhere in that, cut it just below it. So I'm gonna get this cut out first, and then we're gonna get this piece put in place. And then at that point, I'm gonna get my patch panel put on the bottom so I can get my belt line all lined up and everything. That's what we're working on today, or at least this morning. So once I get to work on that patch panel and that rear quarter panel, that's probably gonna wrap it up for me for the day, because again, I'm in here for a short amount of time. I'm looking forward to getting this side done. Once this side's done, I just have to do some work on the driver's side. Unfortunately, there's gonna be a lot more work, believe it or not, on the driver's side. I'm gonna have to do the same thing on the driver's side cowl that I'm doing on this quarter panel. I'm gonna have to kind of cut out a little bit higher because my patch panel isn't gonna cover all the bad metal. Also, the same as on the rear quarter on the driver's side. It's the metal is just too far gone, too far up, so I'm gonna end up having to cut out a piece of metal and then get my lower patch panel with my belt line on. I also have a replacement panel for the rear window. A friend of mine, Justin, dropped it off for me the other day. A little bit of the reveal that goes around the opening on the rear window is bad, so I need to just scab in a little piece for that, so I'll get that all done. Maybe do that today too if I have time. Alright, so I'm basically winging it like I usually do. There's really not a lot of good metal here, so I want to make as straight a line as I possibly can, so I took my square, I set it at 8 inches, and I'm going to put the actual rule up against the car and make a mark. Now I could probably go a lot further back, but I'm not going to.
Well, life has nearly killed me, and my mind has put me on the edge. Life has nearly killed me, and my mind has put
More metal for the scrap pile. I'm going to get this E-pillar all cleaned up.
Though I can barely crawl, I've got to walk where these angels' feet are tread. Darkness nearly drowned me, sunlight alone.
Alright, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get to work on making this template here. I'll get this template laid out, get it converted over to metal. I need to create, this has got a compound curve, so it's got a curve this way, a slight curve this way, and then more of a curve top to bottom. I'll show you guys as I'm doing it, and then I'll get my shrinker set up with my shrinker dies, and I'll start creating this curvature of the side of the body. I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and the reason why I say that is I'll show you right now. I'll show you what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna use this piece of metal, but I'm gonna use a piece of metal like this. Because this metal is so compromised, a lot of guys may frown upon doing this, but I've seen this on a lot of old cars. If you put a piece of metal behind this, tack weld it on the backside, you have a less chance of getting blow through on this old rusty metal, and you'll actually have some real metal to weld to. So when I put my patch panel over this, I'll leave just a tiny little gap. I mean, I could use Clecos on this also. It is cheating, and I'm well aware of that. But an old car like this, I'm trying to save this car. And this will help me out a lot in the process of doing my patch panel. So if you're doing a car like this and it's real rusty metal and you're scabbing pieces in like this, just cut like a 1-inch strip of metal and overlap it. You know, the metal's really compromised because it's thin or it's pitted like this is. You'll be able to get a better weld. Maybe not a nice weld, you'll be able to get a much better weld, and it'll be a lot stronger at the end of the day. So that's something that I've picked up along the way, and I've done this on a few cars that I've built over the years. I'm gonna actually probably try to use this strip. I'm gonna get this strip cut down and get it set behind here and get this welded in place and start the process. All right, so I got my little 1-inch thin strip. Did a quick little 1/2-inch bend on the top to mount up to the flange on the top of the panel. Now I'm just gonna get a few tacks on the front edge in place, and then I'll tack it down across the back. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna make sure it's cleaned up behind the back side.
Darkness nearly drowned me, and the sunlight, Lord, don't it burn my...
Alright, so I got my panel in place, so now I can lay my patch panel right on top of that, get a nice weld right down the front edge. Once this is done, I'll get my lower patch panel put on, I'll cut it across, and I'll get that tacked in place. Alright, I'm gonna get my template made, and we'll get that thing set in place, and we'll get that welded up. Having that metal there also helps hold the template in place, these magnets. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a place to put the magnets. Alright, you guys have all seen this done. My hands are nice and clean this morning though. So I'll have a 1/2-inch bend, a flange on the top, and then the same on the side. I'll do a 1/2-inch bend on the side, flange on the side. Grab some scissors, I gotta trim that. Alright, so that's my panel. I'm gonna end up breaking that edge, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna trim it, give myself about a 1/2 inch. Alright, so that'll be it. That's gonna be my patch panel. So now we have to break this flange. I need to create this flange a 1/2 inch all the way down, because this right here, what I have here, is a little too much. So I need to slim that down a little bit. So let me cut this edge off, and we'll get this edge broke. And then we'll start shaping it.
This valley is much too deep, and this mountain so very high. Well, my cup is...
Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need to get this edge tipped. I need to do it this way. So I need to recreate my mark, my 1/2 inch lip on this side, and then I'll start running it through my bead roller, and I'll get this edge broke, but I do need to relieve this little corner up here first. Let's start folding this edge.
I got such a long, long way to go. My cup is nearly...
Alright, so you can see here, it's starting to distort the panel, but that's okay. I'm going to bring it back around. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just, you're kind of limited on how far I can go, or I am limited on how far I can go. So I'm just going to break this edge over the edge of my anvil, and then we'll grab my shrinker and we'll start shaping the panel to fit the side of the car. Or at least we'll try to. Alright, so we're back to this.
Such a long, long way to go. I got to lay down here and rest before I can take a
So I'm gonna walk over to the car, put this on the car, and kind of get an idea of the fit so far. I do need to modify this. They're gonna relieve a little spot, but I want to try to get an idea of where the, like the main curvature of the body is. So I'll be addressing most of the shrinking towards the bottom. Let me go over real quick. I want to just make some marks on this panel so I can get an idea of where I need to focus my attention. It'll be the first time I fit it up to the car, so. All right, so I'm gonna have to relieve this area here around the B-pillar. So far, it's got a great fit. Let me make a quick mark. So what I need to do is I need to notch this piece, this top flange, around the B-pillar. So I just got to relieve that metal right there. And then a little bit on the bottom as well, where it meets up to the old sub rails.
Down that lonesome road where the darkness nearly drowned me. The sunlight.
All right, so I made some marks. I don't know that you can see them. The sweep kind of starts about 3-4 inches down, and then it's gradual till right about here in the middle of the panel, and then it starts to curve again. So I'm gonna do just a couple of shrinks here and just keep slowly going at it, and then dry fitting it to the car until it fits good.
This valley is much too deep and this mountain so very high.
It's not gonna take much. I mean, just look, one quick round and it already shaped pretty nicely. Let's go look at this and see how it fits on the car. It's pretty much spot on. All right, I need to relieve a little bit of metal on this back edge and get it tucked up in there. The old metal is still up in there. That's what it is. All right. Got my pliers.
I gotta lay down and rest where I can take another step down this lonesome road. Well, my cup is nearly empty. I got such a long, long, long way to go.
I'm gonna get the welder fired up, get a little tack up here in the top corner, and then start working this panel in. It should go together pretty easily, but so far it looks good. That was a quick little patch panel. Got a nice flow to it, nice fit with this little shelf here. That really makes a lot of difference, because otherwise I'd be butt welding it, and this metal is so rusted and pitted, I don't think I'd be able to weld it. I'd be blowing holes through it. So let me go grab my welder. We'll get this welded in place. Alright, well, that's that patch for now. I'll get that all welded in. What a difference, huh? So now, I'm gonna get this in place. But in order to do that, I have to put the door back on so I can line up the bottom of it. It's actually a little too long. No, I guess not. That'll be nice to get this all done. Let me get the door back on, and we'll get that lower patch panel set in place, get that cut out, and get it tacked in place. That'll be nice. So now what I'm going to do is I have my marks made. I'm going to cut this lower panel off. I'm going to do my best to cut it right on the very bottom edge of this edge here. So I'll have this flange will come around, and I'll be able to fit this once I get it in place. I'll be able to maybe trim this down a little bit. Same thing on this. I'll cut this panel off where I already replaced it. and I'll get this new panel fitted in there. But I can't really fit it until the metal that's underneath it is off. So what I'll do is I'll end up adding another, well, this one probably won't be a big deal, but underneath here I'll add another 1-inch backer strip to give myself some good metal to weld to. As you can see here, it really helps with the welding process. And if you finish the interior off, you're never going to see it on the inside, but you know, besides that, you will, but that's how a lot of chops were done back in the day. Alright, let's get this cut out. Get a 1-inch strip cut. Let me clean up this metal first, and then we'll get this panel put in place.
Where the darkness nearly drowned me, the sunlight burned my eyes. This valley is much too deep, and this mountain so very high. I gotta lay down here and rest, where I can take another step down this lonesome road.
Alright, let me get a 1-inch piece of strip and I'll get that put in place. Let me just cut it out of this. Yep, perfect.
Yeah, my cup is nearly empty. I got such a long way to go.
Alright, I got this tacked in place. Kind of limited on space right here, so I'm gonna wait till I gotta remove the tire. Probably should have already done that, so I can get this back area here inside the fender well. It's got a nice bulbous shape to it. I think I'm just gonna start welding this real quick and maybe get this welded just like the other two panels, and then for now call this side done except for some areas that are up above. On the B-pillar behind the window on the door. So let's get this welded up and we'll start working on the area up above the door. I'll show you guys that in a minute. So I'm gonna get this welded real quick. Alright everyone, well I want to do a quick wrap up on this video. During the editing process I realized that I didn't wrap up the video because what I was going to do, I was just going to jump right up onto the B-pillar and get to work on that, but I ran out of time. I didn't realize I didn't end the video until doing the episode, doing the editing on the episode. I ended up finish welding everything on those two patch panels on the rear quarter. I have yet to pull the rear tire off and do behind where the patch panel breaks 90 degrees and comes down on the front edge of the wheel well where the fender line would be. I still need to cut that, relieve that, and get that all welded, but I'll do that after the fact. So when the body comes off, I'll just be able to do it then. The next thing is going to be, to do that B-pillar, the sheet metal on that B-pillar, and then at the same time I'm going to do the back window. There's about a 16-inch section of metal that's bad, probably about 2 inches down on the bottom of that window frame. I gotta replace that, so that's gonna be the next episode. So that's what you guys get to look forward to. I appreciate everybody following along. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm doing a lot more editing on these videos to just get them cut down. Editing out a lot of the talk. Even though there is some talk, I'm editing out a lot of talk that I think is maybe like redundancy or whatever, just to kind of speed things up. I think the finished product is just faster paced, and I like it, and hopefully you guys do too. Thanks to everybody who's reached out, sent me messages, tons of messages lately through the website, through Facebook and Instagram. Just thanks everybody for the new subscribers and just people just checking out the channel, and hopefully you guys are happy with what I got going on. A couple of people have mentioned the cars under the covers. There's some new people here that have never seen the cars under the covers, and once the sedan's done, I do like a quick cleanup, or I do a full cleanup of the shop. I'll pop those covers off the cars and kind of show you guys what's what. I've never done a shop tour video. I know Matt used to do those at Iron Trap, and a lot of guys have, but I've never done one. Maybe we'll do one of those coming up in the springtime when the doors are open. I can get everything cleaned out, moved outside and stuff like that. So until then, thanks everybody. Appreciate you guys following along. We'll see you next time. This old Hot Rod. Take care. Bye-bye.